Namaste Manisha Didi.
Namaste, namaste, and
कैसे हैं?
namaste to everyone. Namaste,
नमस्ते
all the participants. Mani Didi, namaste. Priya ji.
नमस्ते दी
Namaste, Manisha Didi. Didi, actually, my students know two batches are having exam tomorrow. So they told me they won't be able to attend, but they'll see the YouTube video on Sunday.
That's really nice. That's
Yes.
really good.
And you know, one of the student I was asking because she is hearing the content first time. So are you able to follow it? Then she was telling, ma'am, I am able to understand if if some content is I'm not able to clear, go to the YouTube video, listen once more and then clear it.
That's so good. So, these are some of the takeaways which if the students share themselves, it will be so good. And yet we can understand that they have the exams and maybe they'll join us later. So that's perfectly fine. So dear participants, namaste to everyone. It's another Wednesday evening and eSIP follow-up session. We can see we already have our resource person, Arjun Asthana ji with us. So
Namaste.
welcome, Arjun.
Welcome.
Namaste. And good understanding harmony in self as we were discussing it and are going to take it further. So that's good. With this, I'll hand over the session to you, Arjun, so that we can start our follow-up meeting.
So good evening, everyone. In today's session, we'll continue on what we had discussed last time, which is understanding harmony in the self. So before we go ahead, we can see this once again. We can remind about this, that we have this basic aspiration, although we may do different things and have different kinds of ideas about happiness, about various things, we have different ideas, and we can see that our basic aspiration of continuous happiness and prosperity is something that is so strong inside all of us, and we can just explore and see whether that is there or not, whether we have this aspiration. And what we're trying to say through this workshop is that all these are proposals which can be explored through the process of self-verification, self-exploration. We can verify them, and then based on that, we can live. Rather than just following certain assumptions or certain things which others have said, we can verify it on the basis of our own natural acceptance, which we all have access to. So we have the choice to access that or not to access it. And if we access it, then we'll be able to get an answer which is coming from there, which is something which always. So we will do this whole workshop like this. So everything is like a proposal where you can just verify it on this basis of your natural acceptance. So last time we had discussed about the needs of the self, needs of the body, and what exactly the characteristics are of all these things, where the self is the one who has all the feelings, looking for happiness and looking for something which is inside, which is not really a tangible thing. It's not a qualitative, I mean, it's not a quantitative thing. What it's looking for is happiness in continuity, which is a qualitative kind of thing, which is a feeling. In fact, the self is looking for all the 9 feelings, which we'll discuss ahead also. And we can also see that in the self, there's always something going on. There's some kind of thing running all the time, which we're calling imagination, which is a combination of desire, thought, expectation, and so many things which keep running in the mind, which are all different permutations and combinations of these things. And we can see that that's happening continuously. And, if we are aware of this thing, then we can channel it in a better, be more resourceful also, and at the same time feel also happier, because we'll be able to channel our thoughts, our desires, our expectations in the right direction. And on the other hand, when we look at the body needs physical facility like food, shelter, clothing, these kind of things. And these needs are all temporary in time. It's not needed all the time. They're quantitative because they're based on some kind of material which can be quantified. They're fulfilled by physiochemical things, like even food is a physiochemical thing. Any metals, non-metals, all these are physiochemical things. And the activities of the body are all these activities like eating, walking, running, talking. All these activities are for. And in time, these activities happen only temporarily. They don't happen all the time. But in the self, the imagination keeps running all the time. So that is, if you see this table, you can see that there's so much difference between the characteristics of the self and the characteristics of the body. And if we look at the human being, we are a coexistence of self and body. So that is the proposal, that we are not only body, we are a coexistence of self and body. And the body takes instructions from the self and executes those instructions. So whatever the self is, like the self is the one who can control. Like for example, the body doesn't just get up from the chair, right? The self instructs the body that, I want to get up. I want the body to get up, and then the body gets up. It doesn't happen on its own, right? So like that, you can see that the self is the one who is able to tell the body what to do. So the body is basically like an instrument of the self. It's like a tool which the self is using to fulfill whatever the self wants to do. So this is what we had, and we had discussed a little bit about this also, about what exactly is there in our imagination. So generally, when we look at what is going on in our mind, we can clearly see these three things which are happening continuously. Desires about so many things, all with the same basic aspiration that we want continuous happiness and prosperity. And we may have assumptions that, by getting a certain thing, that may lead to it. So those become desires because those are things that we want for that continuous happiness and prosperity. And based on those desires, we may have so many thoughts which keep running also in the mind, which are about how to fulfill those desires. And based on those thoughts, we also may have so many expectations about how to fulfill those desires and what expectation we have from the outcome, or what hopes we have. All this comes in expectations. So if we look at our imagination, then we can see these three things happening, and that results in certain things happening outside. Till now, this was all happening inside, but then this starts to show up in our behavior and our work once we start executing those things outside. Like, suppose you want to build a house, you have a desire that you want to build a house. Then based on that desire, then you have so many thoughts about what kind of house it would be, and how many people will live there, and what material you'll use, and all that. And then based on all this, you also have expectation, and you start carrying out some kind of activities for it. So you start going to the shop, finding out things, going to the architect, finding out things. Whatever was happening inside then starts translating to things happening outside. So that shows up in the form of your behavior and the work that you get engaged with. And this also decides many people's careers and their what we call personality, loosely called personality. But this is all a result of cumulative things happening inside, which we are calling imagination. So they are not two different things. I mean, they are different, but then they are so related to each other. In the same way that the body and self are related, this imagination happening inside and our behavior and work happening outside is also related. Because whatever is happening outside is just a reflection of what is happening inside. So now, last time we couldn't discuss in too much detail about the sources of what is filling this circle of imagination. So last time we had said that you can make a list of your desires. So if some of you have done that, and you can share one or two which are comfortable to share, which are not too personal for you, then you can share, and then we can discuss and see these three things, that where the desire is coming from. This is important to note so that you're able to clean up the imagination such that whatever you don't want starts fading away and whatever you want becomes more prominent. So one or two of their desires which they have, then you can share. This time, instead of the chat, you can actually share with the mic. The mic is there. You can share with that. You can raise hand actually in this so that the mic can be given.
You have Ranganathan Ji with us. Ranganathan Ji, mic is provided to you.
Yes, madam. Namaste, madam. Namaste, sir.
ma'am.
I would like to share with all of you my desires, sir, if you permit me, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, I would like to become a reputed teacher in English, imparting educational values, value-based education, and especially teaching a foreign language to the students. The second desire is to buy an apartment for my only son and to settle in the life more happily. I want to be happy and making others happy by serving what all I could do. That is my desire, sir.
Okay, very nice.
Yes,
So now
sir.
we will look through this one by one.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Before this, we can ask a question which you can reflect on. That are you able to make a list of your desires? You could say yes or no. Are you able to make a list? Were you able to make a list before answering, before not answering the question? It's not a question, it's just before discussing this, we just want to ask so that everybody is able to do this exercise, so that there's no difficulty in finding out. Okay, so yeah, so now the first one desire was what about a reputed and what's it? Teacher, right? Reputed teacher. Can you hear me?
Yes, Arjun, you're audible.
Okay. So the first one was about being a reputed teacher, right? That was the one.
He want to be a English reputed English teacher who want to teach
Question.
foreign language like that. That's our
Okay.
style.
Okay. So we can start asking questions to go deeper into why you have this desire. And then it becomes more and more clear what motivates that particular desire. So if you ask, why do you want to be a reputed English teacher? Then what would the answer to that be? I think he's not here now, right? Is he there?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Yeah, good, sir. Thank you. Firstly, I would like to share that I was influenced by teachers who taught me English, the lower classes and the higher classes. And I love English to make the students to compete with this competitive world, because English is a lingua franca. Through it, they can achieve and their aspirations will be fulfilled by competing for the competitive examinations.
Okay.
That is my strong motive to develop English knowledge in the students. Then my self-satisfaction also, to satisfy myself that I do a little bit to my best to my students.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we look at this desire, one of the components is that we want to do something for the other person, which is to help the other person to learn something.
Yes, sir.
Right? That is one aspect.
Yes, sir.
Another
Yes,
aspect of it is that we want to do this so that we get a good reputation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And another aspect may be, various aspects may be there, right?
Especially self-satisfaction also.
Okay, so self-satisfaction, what it ends up as is the kind of thing where we are trying to get a certain feeling from the others, a feeling that we have done well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Exactly, sir.
Right?
Exactly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when we look at these couple of things,
yes, sir,
then we can see. So one of the things that is happening is that you're imparting some kind of knowledge, right? Some kind of teaching is there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So why do you want to do that? Again, we ask.
Yeah.
Why do you want to teach them?
To fulfill my aspiration, that is to become a good teacher, a good, I say that guiding and helping the students who are in need of that particular thing, sir.
Okay. So this aspect of becoming a good teacher is coming from natural acceptance, because it's naturally acceptable. I mean, naturally, it's something which we want to do to help somebody else.
Yes, sir.
Something natural, right? Because we have a desire which is innate, which is saying that we want to help the other.
Yes, sir.
So that part of the desire is coming from natural acceptance.
Yes, yes, sir.
And when we look at the second part of the desire, which is that reputation or self-satisfaction or that thing,
yes, sir,
then that is coming from a preconditioning or an assumption that when people respect me or when people give me that good feeling, then that will make me happy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that is an assumption.
Yes.
And that is coming from this preconditioning. So within the same desire, we can see that one of the aspects of it is coming from natural acceptance, one is coming from preconditioning.
Yes.
And what was the third one? Was
That
there
is,
anything else?
yeah, buying an apartment to my only son, sir. With my own.
No, I'm saying like like within this desire itself.
Yeah.
One reason was for the
Ah.
reputation. One reason was for helping or
Yes.
guiding the students. And what was the third?
Self-satisfaction.
Okay, those two come together.
Yes.
Self-satisfaction and reputation are basically the same kind of thing, where
Yes.
we are
Yes.
trying to get a favorable feeling from the others.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
So with the guiding,
Yes.
that part is coming from natural acceptance. So that part of the desire is something which can last. The
Yes.
other part of the desire, which is
Yes.
about reputation and that self-satisfaction,
Yes.
that cannot last, because
Sir.
for getting that,
Yes.
you will be dependent on what the other person is giving you in terms of feelings.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Like suppose the other person doesn't give you those feelings.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Then if you're feeling that you're not a good teacher because of that, then you
Yes.
start losing that feeling, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
On the other hand, if you're able to maintain the feeling of that
Yes.
self-satisfaction, regardless of what feeling the other people are giving, that
Yes, sir.
means even if like even if you're not getting that
Yes.
reputation
Yes.
from others,
Yes, sir. Sir.
even then you will be satisfied. Not only
Yes.
satisfied, you will be happy also, because
Yes.
you don't need to get that feeling from anyone else. You already have it within you.
Yes. Yes. What
And
I want
Arjun,
to
I have a doubt. The self-satisfaction, it is not connected to other person's response. No, it is from when we are doing a work, we inside will have no. I have done that work well. If I'm not, for example, as a teacher, sometimes I feel it is not the students from the students, but I itself will feel I have done my work perfect. Means I get a self-satisfaction. Have done it well, but sometimes no, I feel that I have not done it well. So that is not from the influence of others, no.
Yes. Yes.
So it can be either way. Like either it can be that you have your own reference point of what was supposed to be done, like how well you did. You have your own reference point, and then on that basis you say to yourself that yeah, you've done well, or no, this part could have been better, or that part was weak for some reason. So that way you can analyze on your own. That's one thing. And the other one is where like in this case you have your own reference point, so you have some kind of reference, so that you know that this is good and this is bad in terms of teaching, that I taught well or I didn't teach well, right? So that is
Yeah.
if you have your own reference. But
See-
on the other hand, if you don't have your own reference, then
Sir.
you have to rely on the feedback.
Yeah.
And when you rely on the feedback alone,
Sir,
without,
hello.
of course you can take inputs from there, not that you don't take those inputs or those criticisms, but I'm just saying that if you have your own reference point, then you will be able to take that also better, and still you'll know where you are. You won't
Yes,
be
sir.
totally influenced by
The
that,
other people. Okay.
that response.
Does it mean self-verification, sir?
No, that is different. But what we're talking about is just being aware of what you're doing and being able to evaluate it rightly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Without needing the response of others. The response
Yes.
of others can be taken, like whatever points we want to take from that feedback, we can take. There's
Yes,
no
sir.
harm in that, because it can always improve the teaching also.
Right, sir. Yes,
So
sir. Yes.
taking those inputs is not a problem.
Yes,
And we
yes.
inputs
Yes, sir.
you can take. But what I'm saying is that if you have your own reference, that you know which inputs to take, also which ones not to take, you have decided, what becomes a good class and what becomes not such a good class.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
your own, then regardless of what people say,
Yes.
you will not lose that self-satisfaction.
Yes.
But if we are just teaching
Yes.
with a view that we want to get that self-satisfaction from the other side, from the students,
Yes, sir.
then we become dependent on that response.
Yes, sir.
And then if we don't get a good response, then we feel that we have not taught well.
Yes, sir.
So it's a thing which we can just explore.
Yes, sir.
And of course, there may be things like, if you're teaching and the people are not able to understand,
Yes, sir. Yes.
then if you're still thinking that you taught very well, then that
Yes.
means you're not rightly evaluating yourself, right? That means
Yes, sir.
that you
Yes.
can again relook at your own evaluation of your teaching.
Yes. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
But then we don't feel good or bad about the response coming,
Yes, sir.
because we already have that feeling within us that we are feeling
Mhm.
satisfied, and more than satisfied, happy also
Mhm.
within.
Yes. Right.
So then we are not dependent on that.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So any preconditioning becomes a form of dependence,
Yes.
and
Yes.
anything coming from natural acceptance becomes something which can continue and something which makes us free.
Yes, sir.
So the second one was about the apartment, right? You want to
Yes,
have an
sir.
apartment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For my son, I would like to purchase an apartment with my own money, and I would like to give it to him as a gift.
Okay. So this can be looked at in again two parts. One is
Yes.
that the aspect of the relationship between you and your son.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So you want to have a good relation between you and your son.
Yes.
That is one aspect of it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that aspect, when we look at, that
Yes.
desire is coming from again natural,
Yes.
right? That desire, that
Yes.
I mean, that aspect of the desire is again coming from natural acceptance, because
Yes. Yes.
you want to have a good relationship with the other. And if we
Yes.
just ask our natural acceptance that would you want relationship or opposition,
Yes, sir.
what
Good.
answer would come?
Good relationship.
Yeah, so it becomes obvious, right? That answer becomes obvious.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is coming from natural acceptance.
Yes.
And on the other hand, you want to um, buy a gift
Yes.
so that it ensures the relationship, because there is a preconditioning that
Yes.
the gift will strengthen the relationship.
Yes, sir. Exactly, sir. Exactly. Exactly, sir.
Yeah, so this is a preconditioning.
Yes.
This is something which we have assumed, or a belief which we
Yes.
have.
Yes.
That belief could have come from previous events which happened in the past, or it could have come from um, some reading of something. It could have come from someone else who has said something. Could have come from our view of the society. It could have
Yes.
come from anywhere outside, right? But this is
Yes.
not something innate. This is not
Yes.
something which was already there. It's something which we have um, just borrowed from outside, kind of.
Yes.
So this one,
Can I say filial affection, sir?
yeah, you could say anything.
Yeah.
But basically, the assumption is that a physical gift can strengthen the relationship.
Yes.
So this assumption we can look at again and see if it is right or wrong.
Yes.
But we'll keep it open.
Yes.
But what
Yes.
we are it's a preconditioning that more money can lead to better relationship.
Yes.
So that is something which we can just ask ourselves whether that is actually true or not, or that is a strong assumption within us. So
Yes.
we'll leave that open to discuss.
Okay.
And the third one was that we want to settle happily. That was one more, right?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So being happy is anyway part of our natural acceptance. However, when we look at the needs of the body, we can see that we want to have comfortable living also
Yes.
for the right utilization of the body. So if it is for the right utilization of the body that we want to settle,
Yes.
then that desire is coming from natural acceptance.
Yes.
If we want to settle happily for, say, it could be various other reasons, then it could come from either preconditioning or sensation. Like suppose we want to settle happily because we will have a higher status in the society if we have a big house, or we have the top floor in apartments or something like that.
Yes.
Then maybe we have a preconditioning that if we have this kind of a house, then
Yes.
people will look up to us. So
Yes,
this
sir.
could be a preconditioning, right? If it is just that we want to settle happily so that we can rightly utilize the body, if that is the purpose of that
Yes.
desire, then it is from natural acceptance.
Yes, sir.
And if the purpose of that settling happy is to get more involved into the sensations, to enjoy the sensations of sound, tasty food, or go out for movies or something like that, that becomes more related to sensation, that we're trying to get happiness through sensation, and for that purpose we want to settle happily.
Yes. Yes.
So like that we can see that the same desire could be motivated by any of these three things, or even a combination of these three things.
Yes.
Different aspects of that desire, when we
Yes.
really look at, we can see which one it's motivated by. And if a desire is motivated by the natural acceptance, then it has continuity and it makes us feel freedom. Whereas if a desire is motivated by preconditioning or sensation, then it leads to a feeling of dependence on that sensation to get happiness.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This we can observe, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like suppose there is suppose we want to have that apartment only because the others don't have, and if we have it, then we will feel superior to the others.
Yes, yes, sir.
If
Yes.
that is the thing, then once the others have a bigger apartment, then again we'll feel inferior.
Yes, sir. Exactly, sir. Exactly.
So if we go in this route, then there's no continuity.
Yes.
We cannot have that permanent kind of happiness coming from this.
Yes.
It can only be for a few moments.
Yes.
So this is something which we can keep in mind, and then slowly look at all our desires, try to filter them and see which ones we actually want to pursue and which ones are not really leading to our happiness, but we have assumed that would lead to happiness.
Yes. Yes.
So this is what we can do. This is why knowing where it's coming from becomes important, so that we can again look at it and see which ones we want to pursue and which ones we don't want to continue.
Yes.
So very
Yes.
nice.
Thank
So
you.
for all of us, we can see that
Yes.
most of us have so many desires coming from preconditioning and sensation, and that's why we get that happiness only for a few moments, then it goes away, then again it comes back, then it goes away, because we are kind of dependent on these two.
Yes. Yes.
But
Sir,
if we are
is-
able to reach a state where all our desires are coming from natural acceptance, then that fluctuation of our mood will never happen, because then we'll always be in happiness, we'll be in continuous happiness.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So this is where we want to reach, and we can see where we are right now.
Yes. Sir.
We can see for all of us it's like this, right? We have certain kinds of dependencies on these things based
Yes.
on how we're
Yes.
living right now. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. Sir, is it related to physical facility, sir?
Which one?
Getting desires fulfilled.
Getting desires fulfilled is with the either with the knowing or with the assumption that it will lead to happiness and prosperity continuously.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So mostly whatever
Yes.
desires, even you have mentioned that you want to be a reputed English teacher, you want to have an apartment to give to your son, and you want to
Yes.
settle happily. These three desires which you mentioned,
Yes, sir.
all are with the assumption that if you get these three, you can be happy,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
right?
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because that is our basic aspiration, continuous happiness and prosperity. That's what we actually want.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And some of them we are able to identify on the basis of our natural acceptance, and some of them we are not able to see through our natural acceptance, and therefore we since we don't know enough about it, we try to assume some things about it, or we try to escape
Yes.
from these things by going into sensations, which gives us some kind of temporary happiness.
Yes, yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
that's
sir.
what is happening.
Okay, okay. So really, really, indeed, I'm grateful to you, sir, to enlighten me this. Sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. And we are all on this same kind of a journey, because
Yes,
if we look at ourselves, we can see that a lot
yes,
of our desires are not really ours, but we have adopted them because, like, we have seen things happening in the society, we have seen others, right? And on
yes,
that
yes,
basis, we have decided certain things, that we should also do certain things.
yes, yes, sir.
But they
Yes, sir.
may have never been part of our desire.
Yes,
They may have not been part of our desire to start with, but then they slowly have become our desire just because we have seen things outside and we want to be like
yes,
them, like someone else, or we want
yes,
to be feeling accepted in the society, or we want to have that high status in the society. So all this has come from our perception also, right? We have seen things
yes,
outside, and then based on that, that desire has started growing.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But
Yes,
unless we are able to see that it's an assumption that happiness from outside can lead to uh, a continuous source of happiness, that
yes, sir.
itself is the biggest assumption that we have, that
Yes,
money can lead to better relationships, and better relationships you know
yes.
can be
Source of.
yeah. So all these are strong assumptions which we can really look at in detail to see whether they are actually true or not. We can
Yes, sir.
use the process of acceptance, whether
Yes,
these are actually true or not, or we've just strongly assumed it to be true. We've
yes,
believed it to be true, right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's what we want to
Yes, sir.
see. So we
Yes,
become enslaved by preconditioning and sensation just because we are too dependent on them. If we become dependent on them, it's like being enslaved by them.
yes, yes,
It's
yes,
like if you have a TV,
yes,
you should have the remote, right? So that you
yes,
can change the channel when you want.
yes,
But
sir.
if somebody is going on changing the channel, then you don't have freedom of what you can do.
Yes, yes,
So that is the difference between living in this enslavement by preconditioning and sensation versus living in harmony where there's natural acceptance, and you're always referring to your natural acceptance for all your desires,
yes,
and
yes,
then those desires are kind of good for all.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. So great of you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
One more hand was raised, so if you want to mention your
Yes,
desire.
Vikas ji is with us. Vikas ji, mic is provided for you. Ji,
जी जी जी
विकास भाई।
नमस्ते मैडम, नमस्ते सर,
नमस्ते।
नमस्ते सभी को जी. If sir, my question is, if suppose my desire is to have a car or buy a car, and if I see the motivation behind that, if the motivation is such that if suppose my wife is carrying, and I
Okay.
want her to take her hospital in a very good way, such that she will be all right, and
Yeah.
if this desire, if I am unable to achieve that desire, suppose say, we'll just assume that,
Okay.
and whether I'll be unhappy, or what should be done at this time of instance, can you just lighten here?
Okay, first of all, if we look at the desire, that desire is coming from natural acceptance, because you're not buying that car to show to somebody else as something which you have got or something like that. Or you're not even using the car because you like the way that the car moves versus going in a bus or something. You're doing it for comfort for the other person, where you're rightly utilizing the body, right? So that becomes a desire which comes from natural acceptance, because you have that feeling of relationship with the other person and you want to make them feel comfortable, physically comfortable. So that's why you're buying the car. So that desire, if we look at it, comes from natural acceptance. Now, if you're saying that you're not able to fulfill that desire, that's the thing, right? You're not able to fulfill the desire.
Ji. If
So
that is the case,
yeah,
whether
if that is the
that
case,
person, yeah,
if that is the case, then you only have two options, right? One is to do the work such that you're able to fulfill that desire, like whatever needs to be done, find out what needs to be done and do it. Or if you're not able to do that, you're not able to get that, then you start looking at the other options. Like you could request a friend to lend the car for a few days, or you could do certain things like this also, right? So you can start exploring these other options. You don't have to be unhappy, because if you're able to fulfill the desire and you're able to do this task of taking to the hospital, then of course you don't have to be unhappy, because you're able to do it. And if you're not able to do it, then even if you're not able to do it, being unhappy doesn't help you to do it. But if you're still happy at that point, then it can help you to find alternate ways of doing it, right? Like you can ask a friend, or you can go in a taxi, in a cab, or you can do it maybe in these two ways. I don't know any other way, but you could start thinking of alternatives then. So if you're
ji,
starting to think of alternatives and you're able to do it after that, then you'll be happy also, right?
sir, yeah,
And whatever the outside circumstance is, if the outside circumstance is not favorable for you also, then the only choice you have is to either to accept that circumstance as it is, or to make it favorable for you by all these alternate methods, whatever you can find. So these are the only two choices that you have at that point. And if you
ji,
are
sir,
happy during that process, then it would be better for you also, right? Because if you're unhappy, it doesn't really help you also in any way. Many times we tend to become unhappy without realizing that that doesn't really help the situation. So we can be happy regardless of the situation. That's what we want to see. That if we are able to be happy regardless, of course, our life will happen much more easily without this stress and tension and all this kind of thing.
ji, sir. Yeah, probably that should be done. If the desire is not being achieved by anybody, and if the motivation is also I mean to say, if it is not by sensation or by preconditioning, if it is if it is just to fulfill the comfort zone, or what you can say, the need of a body, then of course we have to try to achieve that desire. If at all, if we are unable to achieve, then also we should not be unhappy. That's what I wanted to say, sir.
Yeah, because being unhappy doesn't help also, right?
Yeah, true.
Suppose you're
Ji,
unhappy, then um, the situation doesn't improve, and also your own inside situation also doesn't improve. So outside also nothing changes, and inside it becomes worse also, right? Suppose you
True, sir.
become unhappy because you're not able to get the car. Then suppose that unhappiness comes out as anger somewhere. Then the other person also becomes unhappy. So like that, unhappiness doesn't really help in that scenario also. It just, if you're happy, then the happiness spreads whenever you have interaction with others. If there's unhappiness, then the unhappiness spreads.
G. Yes, sir. Yeah, I do agree for this discussion. Ji,
Okay,
sir. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. So we can also see that we have a lot of these preconditionings, we have a lot of sensation things coming through sensation, desires, but even though we have them, we can just be aware of the fact that they can lead to some kind of temporary happiness. They can lead to something, but then if we expect continuous happiness to come out of these, then we'll be kind of disappointed when it doesn't happen. So once you can see your imagination clearly, you can start organizing your whole imagination. So is in this slide, you can see the top and the bottom. So if it is like the top, then it is organized. So then if it is organized like that, then you'll be very productive also, and you'll be able to accomplish whatever you want to do, whatever your desires are, will be easier to fulfill. The whole route of whatever action you have to take and all that also will become smoother. Whereas if it is like the bottom, then it will become harder to uh, you know fulfill, because you'll have a disorganized kind of a structure. That's one aspect of it. And the second aspect of it is that if our desires are coming from natural acceptance, like the top, then it leads to continuous happiness and prosperity. Whereas if it is like the bottom, then we have so many assumptions that we think would lead to happiness, and we keep running after those. And in that whole pursuit, we just have momentary happiness here and there with those sensations. Like if you go to a restaurant, you got tasty food, then you definitely feel good during that time. But then once that taste leaves your tongue after a particular amount of time, that pleasure is not there anymore. And then there is only a craving for when you can get it next, or how you can get something else which can create the same kind of momentary pleasure. It could be by listening to a new song, it could be by um, you know going out somewhere, it could be for like going to another restaurant after 2 days. It could be so many things, but in the gaps in between these things, there is no happiness over there. There's actually a kind of strong kind of a craving which leads to unhappiness, because we're always looking for that thing in the next moment. We're looking for that happiness somewhere in the future. So if you keep looking for happiness in the future, then when that future moment comes, then if the happiness is coming from a sensation, then it will come only for a very short time, and then again it will go away. So then again we are looking for a future moment for our happiness. So this becomes a never ending kind of a pursuit. So that's why we're just saying that if you have any desires which are coming from your preconditioning or from sensation, then it is important to note that these desires, even if they are fulfilled, they cannot lead to continuous happiness. So that's what we want to share as the proposal. And also, if we look at our imagination, then we can see whether it is organized or disorganized. If it is disorganized, it indicates a state of confusion. And our productivity is also less, and our thoughts also keep going here and there. We have tension also. We may have some depression also. We may have anxiety also. So all these are coming from this kind of a confusion where our imagination is random and disorganized. Especially when we are getting a combination of a lot of negative desires or negative thoughts which are not in harmony. And you can also see that many of our imaginations also may be contrary to each other. Many of our desires may be conflicting with each other. So when we see that, then it becomes very uncomfortable. Because we have so many desires, right? We have accumulated so many desires inside us. So we have so many thoughts coming from those desires. We have so many expectations coming through same way. So when we have all this going on, then we may begin to see that some of our desires are conflicting with other desires. Like, have you observed this kind of a thing where your natural acceptance wants you to do something, but your mind is saying, do something else? Have you come across that kind of a thing? That kind of a feeling? Could say yes or no, maybe. What do you think? Okay, first we can just ask this, that some imagination or the other is going on at this moment, right? Inside you. Something is going on. Okay, so we have this poll or this reflection where you can answer actually over here. The question is simple, that are you able to see if some imagination is going on at this moment or not inside you? So we request the people who are attending to answer the question which is there on the screen. We're just trying this new thing to see if it is functional or not. We'll wait for another few seconds and then we'll discuss about this. Okay, I think a few minutes are left. Not minutes. Okay, anyway, so mostly people have said that they are able to see that something is going on. Some people are saying that, it's not certain. Some imagination may be going on or may not be going on. It's doubtful or something like unsure. So that can also happen when you're closely paying attention and you're not able to find out what's happening on the surface. So, like, for example, if you're totally engrossed in something. you're totally focused on something, then you feel that nothing else is going on. That is the only thing going on. So same way, when you're trying to focus on your imagination, then you may be feeling that nothing is going on at that moment. Or you could be feeling that so much is going on. Right? So if you feel like nothing is going on, it could also be that a lot is going on which you're not able to see. That's also a possibility. So we keep it open, and now we'll go on to the next part of this.
Arjun, there is two questions from a student, Reshma. She has put in the chat box.
Okay.
She had the mic, but I think we didn't get the time to talk to her.
So we can give the mic then?
Yeah, I think so.
Mic is provided to her. Bindu Reshma ji, आपके पास mic है? Kindly ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, Reshma.
Okay. Sir, I had two questions. First one was that, as you told before, like a scenario was asked wherein the person wanted a vehicle to carry the wife to take her to the hospital for some emergency. So I had a different question, like we are unhappy due to some reason and we don't know what exactly the reason is. Maybe due to a change in work or in a location, or we move away from home. It may be different reasons, but this is making me so disturbed that I'm not able to concentrate in my daily work or any of the routines that I do. So how is it that we can find ourselves that what is bothering us, and how can we convert this so that we can do things in a happy way?
Okay, so that is very related to this particular aspect, where we have accumulated a lot of desires, but many of those desires may be conflicting with each other. So, for example, suppose you have a desire. This is not your desire or my desire. I'm just giving a random example. That suppose there is a desire that you want to have a high paying job. And suppose there's another desire that you want to be with the family. And suppose after some time you got that high paying job in a different place, so that you have to go far away to a foreign country and work over there. Suppose you got some kind of situation like this happening. Then you can clearly see that one of your desires was to get a high paying job, and the other desire was to be with the family. So these two desires are there. And now, when you got this opportunity to go somewhere far away and get the job, then you can notice the conflict of desires, that you have these both desires, you want both of them to be fulfilled, but then you're not able to do it in that situation. You either go for that job which pays a lot, you go abroad for that, so that you're able to fulfill one of those desires, not both, or you stay with the family and you get a job which you're getting over here right now, which may not be paying as high. So then again, you have the same kind of a thing where you're able to fulfill one of the desires, but not both. So like that, this is just between two desires. But imagine the situation where you have millions of desires, which are all coming from the assumption that they'll give you happiness. But without verification, we have kept them inside us, and we don't even know that we have those desires. So imagine that kind of a situation where you don't even know what desires you have. So the first step would be to first identify the desires, and then once identified, you can see which ones you want to actually pursue and which ones you don't want to pursue, and then see which of these desires are conflicting with each other. And the ones which are conflicting, you'll have to start organizing them in such a way that you choose which one is the priority and then forego the other. So although that may be difficult at first, or it can always be difficult, but that would only be the way, right? Otherwise, that accumulation of desires never gets sorted out. It's like if you have all your clothes in your cupboard also, if they're not folded and kept, they're all a mess. Then until you do that action of sorting them properly, putting them in order, until you do that activity, they will be all a mess, right? They will never get sorted out on their own. So that would have to be the first step. And once you do that, more and more clarity will come. And all the tension and anxiety and all this coming from the mind is because of all these contradictions which are there, which we may not even know about right now. So this can be
Yes, sir.
done.
So,
This activity can be
like
done.
you said before, the person who doesn't have a vehicle for some of the purposes can take for another option, like can rent a vehicle or avail a cab. So, in the same scenario, if I think of an alternative which I find like it give me happiness, even that alternative option is going to land up in big trouble. So, what happens in that scenario? How can we handle that?
That still means that we are dependent on the outside situation for our happiness, right? Because that means that whatever outside situation is happening, we are not able to find something which would be favorable for us. So we have become kind of dependent on only a very thin line of things which we can accept, and the rest of it we are not able to accept. So that just means that whatever situations are happening, if we are able to change them, then it's fine, it's good. But if we are not able to change them, then our only option is to accept them. Because if we are opposing those situations, even though we are not able to do anything about them, then it will definitely lead to unhappiness, because we're not able to do anything about it also. We're not able to fix it. We're not able to correct that situation. We're not able to make that situation favorable for us. Then the only option is to accept it. And once we accept it, we can be happy. If we don't accept it, then it'll keep lingering in our mind and it'll keep going in circles. And that itself will keep making us busy and unhappy with those thoughts.
Yes, sir, that makes sense. So one more question that is related to an example that you have mentioned before, that for a person who doesn't have a remote in his or her hand and she's trying to change the channel in the similar way. So, is it like a person, especially a girl who's not financially independent, it is always said that she doesn't have the freedom to take opinions in the tells and suggestions or make decisions in her life. So is it really connected to the financial independence for a person to make decisions in life?
It's always like dependent on the situation. Like I can't really comment on what that situation was, but taking a decision, you can always take a decision, right? Regardless of whether you have income or no income, you can take a decision. Like even if you have no income, you can take a decision that you want to take a job and earn some income. So like that, whatever decision you take, you can still take, regardless of whether you have some income or not.
Sir, it's not related to the job or anything, but it's more a kind of a personal thing. And if we say that this is our decision, and things goes up like we are in coming under the reliance of our parents or someone who is we are under the shelter of someone or the other. So so we are not fully independent to take decisions on our own, and we don't have any reliance to support us. So I'm asking in such a context, not related to the job or anything.
Okay, so like you mean that take decisions about what to buy or something like that? If you don't
So
have,
more like I would say based on a culture or a social or a family related matters. When it comes like as you told, we get things from people, we hear them, people accept it, and they reproduce in their own lives, and that is how they showcase it. So on those aspects, people have a kind of mindset, and if we go for a different way, like I say that if I say that I don't give for this opinion, and I have a different opinion for this particular matter, so they say like, oh, if it is that, then you can choose your opinion, we can't support you anymore. If that is the case, that is what I'm asking now.
Okay, okay. So one thing to note is that since we all have a different set of desires, different set of thoughts, different set of expectations, this part is different for each one of us. So because of that, it is natural to have different mindset, different opinions. Each person cannot be expected to have the same mindset or the same opinion. So that is one thing. But behind that, if we look, then is this part the same? We can look at this part, whether our basic aspiration is the same or not. Like in the family, is it that everyone wants this continuous happiness and prosperity, or only you want it, nobody else wants it? Is it it's like for everyone, right? Everyone has the same aspiration. So at this level we can see that it is common. The aspiration is the same. But on this level of desire, thought, and expectation, that is different. And that is expected to be different. So now, if you try to link the two, that your family wants happiness for themselves, they want happiness for you, right? And they have different sets of assumptions which they feel would be the source of happiness. You have different sets of assumptions and thoughts which you would think are the source of happiness. So now it's only a matter of seeing that we want the same thing. Our root aspiration is the same. However, you have assumed happiness to come from something, I have assumed it to come from something else. So if you're able to just communicate the fact that it's okay that we have different opinions, but what we're actually looking for is the same. So then you can do it through this path, I can do it through this path, and we can still have a good relation, right? That doesn't have to spoil the relation in the family. That only says that your opinion is different from my opinion, but we want the same thing eventually. What we're looking for is still continuous happiness and prosperity.
Yes, I guess.
Yeah. So expecting the other person's opinion to match your opinion would not happen, right? That should not be an expectation. It may match, it may not match. In some scenarios it may match, in some scenarios it may not match. But that is okay. Even if it doesn't match, our relationship doesn't have to change because of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can get you. So, just to clarify on what you said, like you have been saying that whatever, maybe like if I have an opinion for which I think that it will give me happiness, at the same time another person will think of a different opinion which he or she claims that will give happiness to me. But this happiness that comes as a result is on two different streams. So we need to make some way to connect both these and to make each other understand that both of us, even though think in a different way, what finally comes is that both of us are happy, and both are I would say not desires, but what we think that give us happiness would happen in the same manner irrespective of the way we travel, right?
Right. So that's why we have this classification into these three aspects, that this opinions and mindset and all this perception, I mean our perspective, all this is coming from these three sources. So that's why if you're able to make that list of desires and look at where it's coming from, then that becomes something which is easily like verifiable. It's something which loses that characteristic of haziness or something which is unclear. Because if you just say opinion or mindset, then we can see that the other person has a different opinion, but it becomes hard to dissect what exactly is happening and what is the reason for that thought or that desire and all that. So this is a way to dissect what is happening inside this imagination, and then start connecting everything with our root desire of happiness, continuous happiness. So once we start doing that, then even you will see that you have some assumptions which you have not verified. Even your parents may have some assumptions which they have not verified, but assumed that they would make you happy or make themselves happy. So like this, if this exercise is done, it can help to clarify this exact problem, that this mindset, which looks like something which cannot be kind of described, that becomes more objective when we put it into this kind of a framework.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. So what happens mostly is like they in from parents' mindset, they always want us to, if we say that so and so I need to go for a job and this is what gives me happiness. So they say like this may be something which gives you happiness, but when it comes to job profile and all the status and money, that won't satisfy your needs. So unless and until we show them that we are successful, they won't approve. So that is what mostly parents go for.
Okay, so that is also another thing where the parent wants to be happy and the parent wants you to be happy, and the parent has maybe assumed that if you have a high paying job, then you will be happy. And they also may have an assumption that if you have a high paying job, then people will look up to them in the society, saying that it's a respectable profession or these kind of terms. So this is all coming from assumptions only, right? It's all coming from beliefs which are there. So if we just look at all these beliefs and we really look at whether it is giving us continuous happiness or it is just a source of a little bit of income which makes us physically comfortable. If we start looking at this and we're able to demonstrate it also in our life, then it will become easier to communicate also.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I think
Yes.
you can make a list of these desires that you have. Oh, actually, you've already made a list of desires. Now you can start identifying. If you made last time already, then you can start identifying which desire is coming from where. And if you haven't made the list yet, you can still make the list. And the list can be kept with yourself. You don't have to share the whole list because there'll be so many desires. Most of the desires which you have, maybe kind of things which you feel are personal, which you don't want to share, or you may be embarrassed to share. That is very likely. So just do it for your own kind of growth. So, or self-development, we can call. Don't do it to show over here. Just do it for your own analysis, because this can clarify a lot of problems which are there inside, which you may not even know that you have. And suddenly you'll start feeling lighter or happier just by clearing up everything. So you can make this list and then classify them into these three. Is there still any doubt about what is preconditioning, what is sensation, and what is natural acceptance? Because last time I think it was not clearly explained. This time, through one or two examples, we tried to demonstrate or try to understand this idea of what exactly each of these terms mean. But if it's still not clear, then you can still ask right now. Otherwise, I think we'll close the session.
Yes, Arjun, I think it's time for us to I can
Yeah.
see a hand risen, maybe Shiva sir. Namaste, Shiva sir.
Namaste, Didi. Namaste.
Namaste.
I
Yes.
had my lunch and I am okay. I don't know about you people.
Hmm.
Arjun ji, hello. Hello, Arjun ji, namaste.
Namaste, namaste, sir.
Namaste. Like, see, to be qualified, qualified to be a desire. Normally we put a test it through, we verify it through natural acceptance. Now, the same thing, what we discussed from the beginning, that to become a teacher, see, I'll give you 3 cases from the discussion we had. This is desire. This is about desire. I mean, how to, based on, how to get a desire qualified to be a desire through natural acceptance. Like, I try to list 3. One is that become a teacher. Second one is become an English teacher. Third one is become an English teacher, respectfully in English teacher. In this first one, become a teacher. Is it a desire? Is it qualified to be a desire through natural acceptance? Suppose I am doing my engineering, so my desire is to become a teacher. So is it qualified to be a desire?
It always depends on the motivation behind that. Like, if we just want to become a teacher or an English teacher or any of these things, then that itself, of course, it is a desire, but we will not know what is motivating that desire unless we go deeper and deeper into why we want that desire. So if you want to become a teacher and we ask ourselves why we want to become a teacher, then there'll be certain reasons, right? So those reasons, when we look at, then we can identify whether that desire is motivated by preconditioning or sensation or natural acceptance. So till then, it's just a desire, but we will not be able to classify it. So we have to go into that why, so that we can. Um, so that's what we had discussed also in the session. So if you
Yeah.
just rewind, probably you could probably hear that, because the same example was
I
given.
was listening to it.
Okay.
That the first question came up in my mind, that
Okay.
Things qualify to be a desire. Like, I have a desire, simple desire, and like, become a teacher, become a driver, or something like that. So will it be qualified to be a desire, so that I can work towards it? If I start working towards it blindly, then I am going to land up in some problem.
So if we
Rise
look
some
at
sort of
desires, everything that we are doing is based on some or the other desire. So even if we are living because we have a desire to live. If we
Correct.
didn't have the desire to live, then we would just end our life, right? We would not live. So like that, every
Right.
single activity which we are doing is based on some or the other desire. If we just identify it, then we'll know that we have so many desires, we've accumulated so many of them. So all of these are, it's not about qualified or not qualified. All of these are desires which are there and which we are trying to pursue with certain actions also. Some of them may be dormant desires which we have decided not to pursue, but we want it. Some of them may be something which we are actively pursuing. But that's a different matter. Basically, all these things
Correct.
are desires, right?
True.
So whether it
So
is
thank
coming
you.
from
We
natural
will
acceptance or
continue
not
next
is
week.
different. Yeah. So I think we'll close now.
Yeah. We'll continue in the next week. Thank you,
Sure,
Arjunji.
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And namaste to everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste, sir. Namaste. Namaste, Sabiko.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.